We all kind of think getting older means getting weaker, right? A little slower, a bit more frail. It's just the way it is. But what if I told you a huge chunk of that decline isn't inevitable at all? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden process that's really driving aging. And more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly how you can start to fight back.
I mean, it's a super easy assumption to make, isn't it? We see it in our parents, our grandparents, maybe we're even starting to feel it ourselves. You know, that little extra groan when you get out of a chair, or a new ache that definitely wasn't there last year. Well, it turns out that is not the whole story. Not by a long shot.
So, what's the real culprit here? It's a process called inflammaging. Yeah, inflammaging. Just think of it like this tiny, smoldering fire inside of you that's been burning super low key for decades. But here's the kicker, and this is the best part. It is not a one-way street. You actually have way more control over this than you probably think. All right, so let's dive in. What exactly is this silent driver, this invisible force that's speeding up how we age? Okay, so when you hear inflammation, you're probably thinking about a sprained ankle or a cut, right? Sharp, painful, obvious. This isn't that. This is something else entirely. It's this quiet, persistent, low-grade fire inside your body. We're talking only about 2 or 3 times higher than a normal baseline level. But, and this is the key, it's active for decades. That's what creates this constant, body-wide wear and tear. And the effects? They're huge. This constant grumbling inflammation is a major driver behind so many things we just kind of accept as part of getting older. For instance, it weakens your immune system, which is why older people can be more susceptible to infections. It actively chews away at your muscle and bone, which is what leads to frailty. And yep, it's linked to some of the biggest, scariest diseases of aging, everything from heart disease all the way to dementia. But wait a second. You might be thinking, hold on, isn't inflammation good sometimes? Like, doesn't it help us heal? And you'd be absolutely right, it is. So to really get what's going on here, we need to talk about the difference between a good fire and a bad fire. So, the good fire. Let's say you get a cut on your finger. Your body immediately sounds the alarm and sends in the emergency crew, right? That's acute inflammation. It's a powerful, super targeted response. Its job is to fight off any germs and patch you up. But here's the most important part. Once the job is done, the crew packs up and goes home. The fire is put out. It switches itself off. And when you put them side by side, the difference is just stark. That good fire, acute inflammation, is all about healing and protecting. It's short-term, high intensity, and it resolves itself. But inflammaging? That bad fire is all about damage and disruption. It's long-term, we're talking decades. It's low intensity, but it's everywhere. And its outcome isn't healing, it's chronic disease. So how is this even happening on a cellular level? Well, Professor Janet Lord, who's a leading expert here, has a great way of explaining it. She calls the proteins involved, they're called cytokines, immune hormones. Basically, they're little messengers. In a healthy response, they're like a good traffic cop, directing everyone where to go to fix the problem. But with inflammaging, it's like they're just standing in the intersection, blowing their whistle 24/7, sending out these constant low-level alarm signals that just exhaust the whole system and cause all this collateral damage. Okay, so if this low-level fire is so bad for us, what are we doing? In our day-to-day lives, what's lighting the match and fanning the flames? Well, the culprits are probably going to sound pretty familiar. They're basically woven into modern life, right? A sedentary lifestyle. Yeah, sitting too much. Carrying excess body fat, especially around the belly. Eating a diet that lacks diversity. The same few things over and over. Then there's chronic stress and, of course, poor sleep. All these things are basically the fuel that keeps that fire smoldering. And here's something that scientists have figured out that is just fascinating. For a long time, we thought body fat just sat there, right? Storing energy. Nope. It's actually an active organ, and it's constantly pumping out those inflammatory messenger proteins we talked about. And that fat around your abdomen, it's especially bad at this. It's basically a little 24/7 inflammation factory right in your midsection. Bad news all around. And we can't forget about stress. When you are constantly stressed out, your body is just flooded with a hormone called cortisol. Now, in the short term, cortisol is a lifesaver. It's your fight or flight response. But when it's high all the time, it becomes catabolic. That's just a fancy word, meaning it breaks stuff down. It breaks down your muscle and it suppresses your immune system. It literally makes you more vulnerable. Okay, so that's the problem.
It sounds a bit grim, I know, but now for the good news. And this is the really empowering part. Because we know what causes it, we know exactly how to fight back.
And if you're looking for the single most powerful, most effective tool in your arsenal against inflammaging, this is it. Exercise. And it's not just about burning calories, not at all. When you actually use your muscles, they produce their own cytokines. But these ones are the good guys. They're actively anti-inflammatory. Your muscles are a massive regulator of your immune system. But this is always the million-dollar question, isn't it? How much? Do I need to start training for a marathon? Do I have to live in the gym? Well, a really cool study found an answer that's, well, it's way simpler and honestly a lot more powerful than you might think. Okay, check this out, because the power of just walking is incredible. Researchers looked at a group of older adults. The ones taking less than 3,000 steps a day, their inflammaging levels were through the roof. But look what happens next. Just by getting up to 5,000 or 7,000 steps, they cut those levels in half. And here's the mind blower. The people who hit 10,000 steps a day, the scientists found no detectable inflammaging. Zero. None. I mean, just think about that for a second. What a return on investment. Now, beyond just the step count, here are a few other powerful tools for your toolkit. First, just reduce your sedentary time. Seriously, just get up and move every hour. Even if you work out, sitting for 8 hours straight can cancel out some of the benefits. Second, eat for your gut. That means lots of different kinds of plants and healthy fats from things like fish and olive oil. And third, you might want to consider time-restricted eating, basically giving your body a longer break from food. So why does that help? Well, it triggers this amazing process called autophagy. Professor Lord has the perfect analogy for it. She calls it a little Hoover. It's literally your body's internal cleanup crew, like a little Roomba for your cells. It goes around sucking up all the damage, junk, and debris that can trigger inflammation. So when you give your digestive system a break, you're basically just giving this cleanup crew more time on the clock to do its job. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. So if you're going to take away just one thing, the number one most important action you can take, what is it? Well, here it is, straight from one of the world's leading experts on this. Increase your step count. Be more physically active. That would be the number one. It's that simple. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't worry about where you're starting from. Just aim to do a little bit more today than you did yesterday. That is the single most powerful change you can make. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Forget about next week or even tomorrow. What is one small move you can make today to start putting out that fire? Maybe it's a walk around the block after dinner. Maybe it's just taking the stairs instead of the elevator. The power to slow down this key part of aging, well, it's a lot more in your hands and on your feet than you probably ever imagined.